Today we are visiting with Ted Vanloo of Lighthouse, Central Missouri. We'll be reviewing a large lighting design project he recently completed in Lake of the Ozarks. Okay, so from what you and I talked about, it looks like we have pretty much 5 major lighting scenes that we're going to talk about this afternoon. We've got the entryway that we're standing in right now. The front of the house is another one of the lighting scenes you created here. Going down the walkway to the back of the house was the third scene, and then the last 2 scenes was right around the back pool and patio area, as well as down below by the boat docks.
Yeah, that's correct.
So let's start here in the entryway, and tell me a little bit about your methodology. Was the entryway, you wanted to make a big splash in the entryway, or what was your design methodology here?
The only splash we wanted was right here on the sides, right on the columns.
Okay.
Just eye-catching right here as you're going by the road. We want people to look down there and say, wow, check that out.
All right, well, we'll move down the walkway here a bit. And as we go down, I noticed you also have some of these decorative steel bollards here in the beds as well. Incorporating those into here, was the desired effect to add just a little more accent light along the walkways, or were you just looking for additional light into the driveway itself?
Both of them, so it accomplished both. We wanted it to be decorative, but we knew we wanted light heading straight down. We want everybody to look right at the front door.
Okay, now as we get down here, I notice we have a trio of crepe myrtles that's down through here. Those are typically known for their light bark, very reflective, which generally is one of the greater trees that most people light, especially in some of the southern states.
These guys had to pop a little bit. As you can see, we use those bullet lights on those, and they really give a great effect. We wanted to make sure, since that popped, we have that guy popping over there.
Okay, it looks like you got a East Palatka holly over there in the corner. And was there anything special you did with that? I know that's a really dark green, and I know that dark green plants, they notoriously just tend to absorb a lot of light.
And they have all cool whites on there. Them are 5 watt, 60 degree bulbs on those guys.
All right, Ted, well, now we're down here in the front. We're looking at the house, and this is our scene number 2, specifically. We call them scenes because that's how we view things, as like a lighting portrait. And I noticed that you have in here, you've got a group of lights. You've got some that are uplighting the house, that are grazing, that are creating that nice interplay of texture with light and shadow on the front of the house. And you're also lighting up some of these dormers and the cupolas up on top of the house as well. Tell me what you were thinking when you wanted to light those. What was the purpose of that?
We wanted to make sure that we saw the height of the house.
Okay, so you're taking the house and you're visually making it taller by bringing those elements.
Yep.
Ted, one of the things I did notice over here that you did do is you've used in-ground core lights over here on the 2 garage sections to visually bring the cohesiveness of the main front of the house to the garages as well. Tell me about that process. Was that a difficult process for you?
It is tough, but it is definitely a necessary element.
Okay, quite a bit more difficult than a stake lat, I would imagine.
Oh yeah.
You've got all this connected back through here in the front. Was there anything special? I know that, Ted, when we light homes, we definitely want to draw attention to the front door.
Yes, sir.
And you know that, I know that. So what was there? I don't see really any coach lights to speak of. What did we do to help accentuate that doorway?
We made sure that we cored inside to get that arch.
Okay.
And once we got that arch, it just goes, the light cascades up in there, it fills that whole thing, and you can really see that front.
I noticed you have a couple of Japanese maples here as well, and a couple of the same bollards that we had in the driveway. How did we light these Japanese maples?
The Japanese maples, they have 2 wash lights underneath each one of them. Once again, we want to keep the light low down here. We did not want to take away from the house. But they're too nice a tree to not light. And we put those bollards right there. They intersect right in the middle. We have plenty of pattern heading straight to the front door.
So essentially what it does is you've got the light reflecting in the entryway from the 2 core lights that you put in, and these just help visually bring that light out a little bit more to welcome the guests in and kind of bridge that light between the front and the driveway. Nice.
Got it.
I like it. It's a good effect. Looks good. So the overall effect in the entryway, I would imagine it's got to be really welcoming.
Yep, it's fantastic.
Now, one more thing I want to look at that you have down here, Ted, I did notice, is in the wall back behind us here, you did put in some lights right into the wall. These typical lights we have underneath here, we call them our hardscape lights. I can imagine if you're standing back by the front door, looking back up towards especially these crepe myrtles up in here, I would imagine that this section of wall right here just visually anchors this lower section of wall all the way up to these trees, and so it's one seamless design element on this whole corner right here.
That way the trees aren't floating. Yeah.
Exactly right. We don't want them floating in the dark. So I noticed that you've got some of these steel lights here, but I don't really see anything else. What else have you got in this area to guide people back to the back of the house?
We wanted to make sure we wrapped the property with these things.
Okay.
But we didn't want to just have overuse of them.
Sure.
So we went ahead, out of these trees right here, we have a good pattern here, pool of light coming down here, pattern, pool of light all the way down.
Okay, well, how high did you put those up in the tree?
Oh, about 25 feet.
Man, that's up that. No, that's gonna be tough for some guy to get up there in a tree like that to do that.
Yep.
And one thing I did notice you did do, Ted, is you don't just put them out in the open to where they just shine on the ground. You've actually put them up behind the leaves. What was the purpose in that?
So we kind of have a little pattern to go with that steel bollard right there.
Okay, so you got leaves in the pattern of the bollard. And so what happens when those shine down through the leaves and down the walkway?
We have a cool pattern right here also.
What kind of pattern?
That leaf right there that matches that one.
Okay, so great. So you get a leafy pattern on the ground. That's cool. Good detail. Almost like light coming through a tree during the day. You see a pattern on the ground.
Exactly.
It's just the reverse at night.
Mm-hmm.
Very cool. I like that effect. Okay, so Ted, now we're here. We're standing in kind of the pool area here in the back of the house. This is scene number 4. Really, this is going to be most viewed probably from the lakeside, as well as from the residents looking out the window as well. Now, this is very, very difficult in this type of an installation. I've noticed that you do have lights that are really, they're put in the ground, they're poured in the ground itself, into the concrete. There's no stakes, there's none of that easy stuff in there. You really had to go to a lot of effort to get this installed. But I also noticed that you had the same type of effect that you did out front, where you're grazing that stone and getting that effect through there. Tell me about the process you had as far as what it was like to try and core these lights in here.
This was really difficult, but Scott and I cored all the way through every bit of this concrete, and we had to chase wire through all the drains and whatnot to get it all the way out.
Okay, great. Well, I'm sure the homeowners are going to appreciate it, and especially everybody out on the lake that's driving in, they're really going to appreciate the beauty of this home as they're looking. Ted, I noticed you got the house lit really, really well, but you've also got some open spaces out here on the backside. They're probably fairly dark at night. It looks like you have some lights that are really well concealed into the posts of these banisters and the railing going around the pool deck. Tell me about that process, because that looks like that was pretty interesting to try and get those in here. And I know after the fact, it's very, very difficult. So tell me about the process of getting that in there.
In essence, it is very difficult. Scott and I took this whole railing apart, drilled it where it needed to be drilled, and put it back together the way it needed to be.
So you literally had to disassemble the whole railing?
The whole railing.
Wow. Man, that is a lot of effort. But
for safety and security, that's what we do.
You got to get it done, right?
That's right.
This lighting scene that we have here, this is the lower walkway leading down to the boat docks. It's also the scene that most people see from the lakeside looking in. And it's a very important scene because the house sits very, very high on the property, Ted. And I know what you did down here is you were trying to visually link the home with the landscape below. I know that's important because you don't want that house to seem like it's just out there floating in the dark. And I love what you did here. Tell me about the light fixtures that you used here to illuminate the stone wall.
We use bullet lights with MR16s in them, 3.5 watt all the way around.
I also noticed you have some of these dogwood trees that are illuminated down here in the bottom. Why'd you light those, and what did you use for them?
Well, these are all beautiful trees, so we did not want to leave them go alone, but we used MR16s bullet lights. We have 3.5 60s in those also.
Okay, so really I think the effect you're trying to do is, even from this wall that sits up fairly high on the property, you're trying to even bring the landscape down even further down to the water level. Now this is a pretty awesome waterfall on this property here, Ted. Tell me about what the homeowner wanted to do with the waterfall.
He wanted to make sure that, as you can say, from the lake, he had all the trees removed just for this water feature right here. So what Scott and I had to do was get inside there, aka swim a little bit and get in there and get it just perfect where it grazed all the way up in there, had enough power, but we weren't blaring onto his house.
Okay. What does it look like when the water's sheeting over this?
We made sure there was a pile of power in that guy right there, okay? So as it's coming over, it really, really gives it a great effect.
Overall, Ted, I think I got a good handle of the project, and it looks like you covered all the details really well, from the lighting of the architecture to accentuating the landscape, but yet keeping it soft so that the main focus was on the architecture of the house, not only from the street, but also from the waterway here behind.